Taehyung hurt. Jungkook's words made ARMY cry. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because today's video dives deep into one of the most emotional moments in the history of BTS. A moment that made fans cry, stirred controversy, and revealed something profoundly human about Taehyung and Jungkook. This isn't just an analysis, this is a cinematic retelling of a real emotional storm that once swept through the fandom. So sit back and let the story unfold. It begins not on stage, but in silence, the kind of silence that comes right before someone says something they've been holding inside for too long. And for Taehyung, silence is rare. He's always been the bright one, the one whose laugh echoes like a spark, whose presence feels warm even through a screen. But that night, he wasn't glowing. He was dimmer. Like a star clouded by something he couldn't quite explain. People often forget that even celestial bodies burn out from the inside first. The moment didn't look dramatic at first glance. It wasn't one of those explosive arguments or emotional breakdowns you'd expect from a movie. It was just a live stream, one of countless times the members sat down to talk to ARMY, share updates, call each other out jokingly, or simply exist in that safe space they've created over the years. But if you paid attention, if you watched closely, you saw Taehyung's smile twitch, just slightly. You saw his eyes shift away, as though he was trying to hide something behind the calm surface. And Jungkook. Jungkook noticed. He always notices. For years the two have been tied together in the narrative of BTS, not because the fandom pushed it, but because their natural chemistry made it impossible to ignore. Brothers in music, opposites in personality, yet connected in a way that only longtime friends can be. They've shared hotel rooms, long flights, impossible schedules, and growing pains. They've seen each other rise, fall, and rise again. So when Jungkook opened his mouth that night and said those words, the ones ARMY still remembers, the ones that replay on fan edits layered with emotional music, he wasn't just speaking casually. He was speaking through the bond they formed long before the world was watching. He looked over with that quiet understanding in his eyes and said something simple, something almost too gentle for someone as powerful as him. "Hyung, you don't always have to pretend you're okay." It was just that. A soft sentence. So soft that some fans didn't catch it the first time. But Taehyung did. You could see the breath hitch in his chest, the way his posture shifted. It was as though someone had peeled back a layer of armor he didn't even realize he'd put on. And something about those words, so small, so unguarded, rippled outward. Fans clipped the moment instantly. It spread across social media. People commented things like, "Why did that make me cry?" and Taehyung looked like he needed to hear that more than anything. Some said it felt like watching two constellations align unexpectedly in the night sky. Others said it felt like a bruise had been touched, gently, but undeniably. But the real question, the one that ignited the emotional wildfire, was this. Why did Taehyung look hurt before Jungkook said those words? There's a moment right before the livestream cuts to him where he's adjusting his sleeve, staring down for longer than usual, his face uncharacteristically still. Not blank, still. That kind of stillness that tells a story if you're willing to listen deep enough. Some fans speculated he was tired, bone-deep tired in the way only artists who give everything to the world can be. Others believed he was quietly struggling with something personal, something he couldn't, or didn't want to, name. It wasn't sadness, exactly. More like heaviness. The kind that settles on a person who's been holding too much inside for too long. And maybe he'd been hiding it well, as he always does. Taehyung's emotional intelligence is often underestimated because his charm and playfulness mask it. But under that exterior, he feels deeply. He always has. Jungkook, however, has always been attuned to those shifts. Maybe because he grew up looking at the older members like anchors in a chaotic world. Maybe because Taehyung was one of the first people to make him feel safe in the early debut years. Maybe because, beneath all their differences, they understand each other without needing to say much. So when Jungkook spoke those words, when he pierced through the subtle mask Taehyung had been wearing, there was a brief, almost imperceptible pause. A moment when the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. Even the live stream chat, normally a wall of constant motion, seemed to halt for a heartbeat. And then Taehyung smiled. Not the wide, playful smile he's known for, but a small, fragile one, like a candle flame flickering in a draft. As though Jungkook had touched something raw, and the only response Taehyung could give was that tiny upward curve, the kind people make when they're trying not to cry. That's when ARMY lost it. Hundreds of thousands of comments flooded in. People tweeted that they felt the weight of that moment in their chest. That they'd experienced something similar in their own lives, hiding their exhaustion until someone finally looked at them and said, "You don't have to pretend." Because even though they're global superstars, even though the world sees them as icons, they're still human. And that night, Jungkook reminded everyone, Taehyung included, that vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's a language. One he speaks fluently with the people he loves. But what came after, what happened in the days following that live stream, that's where the story takes a turn no one expected. Something shifted after that live stream, quietly at first, like the way a tide pulls back before a wave crashes. ARMY noticed it. Clips circulated showing Taehyung unusually contemplative during rehearsals, his gaze drifting off to the side as if he were lost in a thought that refused to let him go. For ARMY, this entire sequence, the live stream, the subtle reactions, the heartfelt concert moment, became a collective memory. A reminder that even the strongest, brightest stars sometimes dim. And that sometimes, all it takes is one gentle voice, one honest sentence, to reignite them. So what does it all mean? Why did Jungkook's words make ARMY cry? Why did Taehyung look so deeply affected? Maybe because we saw ourselves in them. In the silent weight Taehyung carried. In the empathy Jungkook offered without hesitation. In the courage it takes to tell someone, you don't have to pretend. And the courage it takes to believe it. And maybe, just maybe, we cried because the moment revealed something universally human, that even in a world overflowing with noise, the most powerful thing we can offer someone is the truth gently spoken. A truth Jungkook gave. A truth Taehyung needed. A truth ARMY felt. And if this story leaves you with one thought, let it be this. Sometimes the quietest moments between people tell the loudest stories. And sometimes, the words that make you cry, are the ones that finally let you breathe.